If I share the gospel with your friend's going to hell. I'm sorry, I'm laughing a little bit, but I really did say that once. And on today's episode, I want to tell you all about it. Steve Shermer here at Silk Road Catalyst. The purpose of our channel is to amplify your knowledge, know-how, and involvement in global missions, especially among the gospel-deprived. And before I get to my story, hit that subscribe button. Follow us so when we drop new content, you'll know. Now let's get started. One summer, a couple of friends and I decided to go to Asia and share the gospel with college students. And this was a different trip from a video I shared a couple of weeks ago. And on this trip, we saw God do something amazing that even the missionaries we were working with said they had never seen or heard of in that city. And this isn't a pat on our back because honestly, we had nothing to do with it except we just went. But ultimately, what happened was an act of God. And in 10 short days, 21 students came to faith in Christ on a campus that was largely full of atheists and students who had been taught from very early on in their life that God didn't exist. And yet we saw God transform 21 lives so fast, and it was absolutely amazing. 6 months later, one of the guys that went with me during the summer wanted to come back. And so we went back to follow up with the students. Now, yeah, the students had missionaries around them that were following up with them on a regular basis. And in fact, all those students formed a church. But we wanted to follow up ourselves. So we went back and we met up with them. And of course, we wanted to share the gospel with more students. And one of the girls that came to Christ brought one of her friends to me. And that's the story I want to tell you about. As we sat in the cafeteria of my friend's university who came to Christ that previous summer, she brought a friend with her. And so naturally, my friend asked me, Steve, can you share the gospel with my friend? And I said, well, why don't you share it with her? And she says, well, I can't. I don't know how. I said, what do you mean? You're a Christian, right? And she said, of course. I said, well, you understand why you're a Christian, don't you? She says, absolutely. I said, you understand sin and forgiveness and what Jesus did on the cross? And she says, definitely. I said, then you know how to share the gospel with your friend. And she just kept going on and on and on saying, I don't know how to do it. And then suddenly it just came out of my mouth. And honestly, I think God put it there. And I said, if you want me to share the gospel with your friend's going to hell because I'm not saying a word. And she had a shocked look on her face after I made that statement. And then she continued to go back and forth with me. But eventually, like I was hoping she'd do, she turned around and started sharing with her friend. And so she shared, it was probably about 50 to 60 minutes of her talking with her friend and me just sitting there observing. And after that period of time, she led her friend to Christ. And my friend looked straight at me after that moment and said, wow, that was easy. I said, absolutely. I said, yeah, you know, they don't all come to know Christ, but yeah, you know how to share it. You did great. And that's all it took. And in that very instant, she turned next to her to another person. I don't even think she knew this girl, and started sharing the gospel with her. And 15 minutes later, led that girl to Christ. I mean, it was an absolutely amazing hour and a half of watching her share the gospel and leading these two girls to Christ on her campus. So why am I sharing this story with you? So I'm sharing this story with you in hopes to encourage you. My friend was battling fear. Fear of not knowing enough information or fear of not saying it accurately. And so she wanted me to do it because she saw me more as a professional, you could say. But you know what? I believe many of us who are watching this have some level of fear. It could be because we don't think we know enough, or it could be, like many people, as fear of rejection. Or we just don't think we're the evangelist. And we're not all gifted evangelists. I get that. I'm not a gifted evangelist. I have to learn how to be proactive in this. And so I want to encourage you to, just like my friend, there are opportunities all around you to share the gospel, both here in the U.S., in Europe, Africa, Asia, wherever you live. There are opportunities all around you to open your mouth and share the gospel. You don't have to be a professional missionary or theologian or pastor or someone who's been a Christian for 10 years to be able to effectively share the gospel. I strongly believe, because I have seen it, if you've been a believer for one day, you know enough to share the gospel with someone who knows nothing about Christ. All we need to do is share what we know. And so I want to encourage you, be like my friends, step out in faith, step out in boldness, and find some people around you and share the gospel today. And don't forget, there are 2.1 billion gospel-deprived peoples in this world who desperately need us to amplify our knowledge, know-how, and involvement in global missions so that every person on this earth can gain access to the gospel and a biblical community. So follow us on social media, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and let's work together to get the gospel to the gospel-deprived.